For more on the story, let's bring in the Afro-Middle East Centre's Director, Na'eem Jeenah. Very good evening to you, Na'eem. Good to have your time. So day 3 of a 4-day ceasefire in Gaza. We're seeing another list of people who are expected to be exchanged. These 13 Israelis who are due to be released and the 39 Palestinians. Not without a hitch based on what happened yesterday. But is the process going better than expected?
Well, no. I mean, I think that it was expected that it would go smoothly. Yesterday we saw the hiccup, as you mentioned, with the Israelis not fully keeping to their side of the bargain. It's unclear whether today will go ahead smoothly or not, or whether there'll be a delay like there was yesterday. But there's great anger on the Palestinian side, not only with the Hamas in Gaza, which is brokering the deal, but also from families in the West Bank who have over the past 2 days been receiving family members who have been hostages of Israel. The unhappiness based on the way in which the lists have been manipulated. So, for example, on the first day, one of the people who was quote-unquote released had already been out of prison and had served his term. Another was due to be released in a month anyway. Last night, one of the people released was due to be released in 18 days, while the lists that had been drawn up and agreed on between the two sides included, starting with those who had the longest sentences in Israeli jails. So that still kind of hangs over the process. We'll see what happens. I think the exchange is supposed to take place in minutes now. Whether it goes ahead or not, we'll see. I mean, there are news reports that from the Hamas side, there's already preparations for the handover to take place.
So that issue caused quite a lot of anxiety both in the Palestinian territories and in Israel last night, when it appeared uncertain, in fact, if the batch of hostages was going to indeed be exchanged yesterday. Ultimately, they managed to overcome that. How much of a threat, though, does that pose to the rest of the ceasefire period? Because there are still 2 more exchanges that we're expecting tonight and tomorrow on the last day.
Well, if it goes ahead today on time, then I think we can assume that the mediators, particularly Qatar, has imposed on both sides and convinced both sides convince each side that the other will stick to the agreements made. I mean, apart from the manipulation of the hostage names by Israel, the other complaint has been that Israel has not allowed the full number of trucks that was supposed to reach, the 8 trucks that was supposed to reach the northern part of Gaza, didn't allow that to happen yesterday. And that in violation of the agreement, Israel had been flying drones overhead in Gaza. So it's not sure yet whether those 2 issues have been resolved today. But it seemed that there was lots of work by the mediators overnight and today, and so we'll see. If they've succeeded in convincing each side that the other will stick to the deal, then it'll go ahead, yes, smoothly.
But what about, Na'eem, then the issue of humanitarian aid not trickling to people in the north, where we know the fiercest fighting has been happening for the better part of the last 7 weeks or so? Is that an issue that you think would be grounds for an abrupt end to the ceasefire? Because if aid is not getting there and people are unable to leave, I mean, a team from Sky News, for example, was documenting over the weekend when it says were people who were trying to get away on foot but were killed by Israeli sniper fire.
Yes, which of course itself is also a violation of the agreement, because there's not supposed to be any firing going on. Yes, that is one of the deal breakers as far as the Palestinian side is concerned, and so that's why it was raised yesterday as one of the main issues in terms of violation of the agreement. So if that has continued today, and as I say, it's not very clear whether today all of the trucks that were destined for the northern part of Gaza have made it through. But if they haven't made it through, if they were not allowed through by the Israelis, then it could jeopardize it not only for tonight but even for tomorrow. The issue of the aid reaching the people in the northern part of Gaza, the most desperate part, is a very important part of the deal and very high priority for the Palestinian side.
There are images just shared a short time ago apparently showing Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, in Gaza, clad in military fatigue. And he said this apparently. He's told the Israeli troops that they will continue until victory. A reminder, of course, that at the end of this 4 days, we're going to see more bloodshed.
Absolutely. I mean, that has been the Israeli position from before this truce pause, whatever you want to call it, started, that this is exactly that, just a pause in the genocide, and that genocide will continue after the 4 days. It's been articulated in that way not only by Netanyahu, but also the defense minister, the spokesperson of the Israeli occupation forces, etc. So that's the intention. The thing that lacks clarity, of course, is what does victory mean for the Israelis? Because that has constantly been changing over the past 7 weeks, from eliminating Hamas from Gaza to disarming Hamas to whatever else. And so in the process, all that happens is that more and more civilians are killed, are massacred, and there's greater and greater infrastructural destruction. But Israel, it seems, is not clear for itself what its objective is and what objective is attainable.
Mm-hmm. Let me give you these latest lines from Netanyahu's visit to Gaza. Today, he's apparently said this, according to the Times of Israel. He says, "We have 3 goals for this war: eliminating Hamas, which you were just referring to, returning all our hostages, and ensuring that Gaza does not become a threat to the state of Israel again." How does one even make that determination, for example, when Hamas, the people who are referred to as the engines and the leaders of this armed group, are not even in Gaza, and the exact number of Hamas fighters is itself unknown?
Well, Hamas is in Gaza, as it is in the West Bank, but in Gaza they've been running Gaza. But in terms of the numbers of fighters, we have a sense that it is not only Hamas, but Hamas being the biggest, but Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front, and the Fatah armed group, Al-Aqsa Brigades, that between them we're looking at probably about 40,000 fighters. That's a fairly good estimate. Destroying all of that, killing all of those fighters is not an attainable task. Ensuring that Gaza is not a threat is not an attainable task. Gaza is a territory that is under occupation. A population that is under occupation has the right under international law to resist that occupation, and the people of Gaza have made it clear that they will continue resisting until they win their liberation. So to say that you want to remove the threat from Gaza is just not going to happen. The only way for it to happen is to literally commit a genocide that eliminates all the people of that territory, which is what Israel is saying it wants to do. But killing off 2.3 million people, I don't think is an attainable task. The issue of the hostages is actually the only objective that is attainable. Except that it's not without its problems. And the problem for Israel here is that it seems that the resistance in Gaza is not willing. I mean, they're exchanging the civilians now, and after tomorrow, from the Palestinian side, it seems the hope is that this current 4-day truce would be extended to at least 10 days. And if that happens, there'll be more exchange, more handing over of civilians. But in terms of the soldiers that are being kept captive by the resistance in Gaza, they're not going to exchange them, they're saying, until all Palestinian political prisoners are released from Israeli jails. Okay. So that's about 7,000 in Israeli jails. That's attainable, of course. You can do a swap where all 7,000 are released and the 200 odd from Gaza are released. So that's, of the 3 goals that Netanyahu mentioned, that's the one that's attainable. And if it does happen, he'd be able to claim some kind of victory. At least the protests against him that continue in Israel will go down as the families rejoice with the return of their loved ones, etc. But that's about all as he can manage.
Na'eem Jeenah, good to speak to you from the Afro-Middle East Centre. Thank you for your time on News at Prime.